I will be there whenever.
Whenever we are faced with conflicts and problems, we settle into an area of total discomfiture because we do not know what type of a resolution could be arrived at. Anything that we think or feel or presume as a position taken by us, as opposed to the position taken by the other, cannot continue to be in a state of stalemate all the time. We also find, after a long and protracted period of confrontation, something known as a resolution, as an answer, as something that brings about an end to the so-called conflict that we presume to have had thus far. It can be a personal tragedy, it can be a relationship problem, it can be anything. Even a small sneeze is enough to cause us ample agony, and we feel that we are totally in a state of distress. But whenever we are relieved from that position, we fail to think what really happened. This is the theme of the 4th chapter, where we find a very consoling message coming when the nature of the inner conflict is threadbare analyzed by Bhagavan Sri Krishna. After having threatened Arjuna in the 2nd and 3rd chapters with his powerful message, he mellows down to say that this state of agony will not go on forever because it will be resolved by divine intervention. When we talk about divine intervention, it does not mean that the universe comes down totally. It means that the universal reflection is reflected in certain personalities through the individuals whom we know, with whom we live, and with whom we have an interaction, and gives us a resolution. Now there is a position and there is an opposition. Both have to be brought to a state of reconciliation. Then the person who is trying to bring about reconciliation must have the transcending capacity of the forces that are opposing each other. It is such a person or such an entity or such an occurrence or such an event that can definitely bring about a resolution. If there is any bias, if there is a partial understanding or sympathy towards one, then the conflict continues. Whenever there is a fight against what is lawful, legally, ethically and morally correct by the forces which oppose for their own selfishness, when there is a state of chaos in the country, when there is a mental deficiency where we fail to resolve our problems, then a solution comes in the form of an incarnation. That is a consoling message in the 4th chapter. Incarnation is not necessarily a person. An event or occurrence, a word, some music, a sight, a vision, anything can be an incarnation. That incarnation only can bring our agitation to a standstill and make us see the vision beyond the confines of our conflict. While we adore the incarnations of various gods and goddesses at different times of our lives, when we read the scriptures, the principle of incarnation is always present with each one of us all the time. Then, if that is so, why don't we see them all the time? Maybe a question of a seeker. When we live with the great Mahatmas, when we live with the people to whom we can look up to with awe, when we live even with a pet, a tree, even a leaf or a flower, and that feeling wells up into our heart and takes us into a different dimension, it is a total reflection of that incarnation principle only. In an incarnation, there are no pairs of opposites. The incarnation principle stands for total justice. That is why it can resolve and understand the problem. Such people and such events are not normally exhibited or normally understood by our senses. We are either afraid of such people or we have a doubt about such people. When Bhagavan Sri Krishna stood there, it took a long time for even Arjuna to understand the capability of Krishna. The reason being that the senses speak a language which is not compatible with the events that unfold. We think we plan an event, but actually we walk into an unfoldment. In that unfoldment, we find a particular resolution because there is no personal expectation. In the unfoldment, when we walk with total openness, we are bound to meet with a glory, the glory of participating in that unfoldment. And that unfoldment just lifts you and gives you a vision which we can adore as an incarnation. There were great Mahatmas who lived in the past, whose stories, and the Bhagavad Gita tells us that we must read the stories of saints and see their lives, give us a peep into what such extraordinary people could do at a given point of time. If you read the life of Swami Jnanananda, who lived for 182 years in South India and left the body in 1972, he did not give any big sermons. Hundreds and hundreds of people went to see him with all sorts of problems, and he hardly ever spoke. They stood in front of him, looked into his eyes, sat quietly, and got up and went away as if they had no problems before. What happens in such an interface between agitated minds and exalted minds gives us a clue as to what a spiritual dimension can do in case of a particular crisis that we face in our daily life, because all resolutions are done by the divine participation. When we become aware of the participation, there is an instant realization, there is an instant solution, there is an instant answer, there is an instant relief. Normally, we do not recognize that aspect. The two of us are talking because of the presence of pure consciousness. Both of us are talking and agreeing or disagreeing with one another because of the presence of the consciousness. But if you have an open mind, even though we agree to disagree, we will eventually come together to understand what is the point of justice. In that acceptance, nobody is defeated and nobody is victorious. Everybody is exactly in a state of perfection, at least momentarily. Perfection is not a state of indivisibility. It is not a state of multiplicity. It is a state of indivisible multiplicity. There is absolutely no fear after having resolved a situation of conflict. There is no anxiety. There is no expectation when you accept the total point of justice. It is only at that level there is bound to be that perfection which we are calling for. Through the act of Karma Yoga, through the act of practices that are told in the light of the Bhagavad Gita, we are gradually entering into a sequential events which could lift us into a state of perfection. Again, another question comes. If perfection is that, from whose point of view is that perfection to be analyzed? Whatever is right to one person need not be right to another person. Rice is a good food to eat, but it is a very bad food to be given to a patient in the hospital. Is it the mistake of the rice? Where you apply a given point and where you apply it with an idea to uplift that situation, to clarify that situation, and to go beyond that situation, it becomes a good participation. The moment you see something is good, it also implies something else is bad, and so the conflict continues. Goodness is a characteristic way you see the absence of the otherness. It is not simply good. A solution or an interference by the participation of the individual whom we adore as an incarnation is a principle which stands with all its purity, where no negativity can ever be felt or discussed or even experienced. That is an advent of such a mighty being who wants a resolution to be made with understanding. We can resolve a situation by throwing money. We can resolve a conflict by threatening somebody, but seldom can we resolve a conflict by giving the proper understanding to the person. If you can resolve a problem through proper discussion and understanding and justice, thereafter that problem will not exist as a problem because you have resolved it through understanding. Anything that is done through understanding becomes a principle of incarnation. We are all incarnations of the Absolute, but we are totally unaware of the fact, and we have our own idiosyncrasies where we doubt ourselves. We do not have any faith in what we do, as if it is done by us, we think, and we suffer. But in the light of the Bhagavad Gita, we are told that only a divine activity is happening through you, for a purpose beyond you. But the trick is, when we think that we are performing our activities, we think it is done for us and not related to another. But the intervention by the divine incarnation instructs you into a systematic understanding where you feel that everything is done for the sake of the other. Then it becomes a sacrifice, a yajna. An incarnation participates in an event only because it is a cosmic sacrifice. In a sacrifice, you burn everything as an offering, an oblation into the fire where you burn all types of negativity. When you burn the negativity, you are also aspiring to make it pure. And when you put anything in the fire, it becomes purified. Even to make an ornament, the gold has to be put in the fire. When it is burned with the fire of understanding, a true understanding brings the generous feeling of the presence of the Almighty. We cannot all the time behold a Vishwarupa Darshana where the cosmic form is shown as in the 11th chapter. Arjuna was terrified to see it, and he says, "Oh, it is extraordinary, fantastic, but please come back to the original form. I don't want to see you in this form, it is terrifying." We want to go to the moon, but if you go to the sun, you know what will happen. If you say that I will only worship the sun, and if you go towards the sun, you will be burnt to ashes. And if you say, I don't want the sun, and give a right about turn, you will freeze and die. Everything is positioned in a way where everything is discharged in an equal manner to all beings. That is the purpose of all the enlightened ones. That is why such a person can perform Karma Yoga. Sun is performing Karma Yoga. It does not matter where it comes or how it comes or how you go towards it or how you go away from it, whether you use it or abuse it, do not care for it. It is least bothered. It is there to give you the brightness, freshness, ability, acceptability, to give you the light that you want. But it does not care for any of your praises or any of your insults because it is performing Karma Yoga. That is the true state of a perfected being or an incarnate being. Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, I spoke of this wisdom years and years ago to this lineage to which you belong, and the only person who understood what I was trying to say was the Son, and he knows it, and he is performing that yoga. And for you to perform that yoga, you have to understand the principles. The practices have to be so pure, so intent, so honest, in order to reach that perfection. Did anybody tell the sun that it must give us sunlight in Cape Town? Is it not giving any sunlight to other parts of the globe? It is there. The very existence brings light. If you go in front of people like Anandamayi Ma, she never spoke. She will just scan you through the eye, and she would look up into the sky as if some film is coming out. You do not know what she is saying and what she is doing. Nobody can interpret what her behavioral pattern implied. She was just a normal person, but she was able to see everything wherever she sat without interfering into the operations taking place in the cosmic form of governance. She sat in one of the Samyam Saptas in Haridwar. Samyam Sapta is a 7-day spiritual discipline which the Anandamayi Ma ashram holds every year. One day is saltless food, one day only dahi, one day no food at all, and one day only water. Like that, they have certain self-disciplines. And there are discourses by various Mahatmas belonging to different schools of thought for an hour or two, and there is constant bhajan, and there are people who write their mantras and they sit in silence. There are so many things that happen during the 9 hours. And Ma was sitting in one of those sessions, and suddenly she got up. Normally when she sits for a lecture and someone is speaking, she does not get up. A speaker does not perform. He is not an entertainer. He is a person who is empowered by the grace of God to bring about an understanding through the instrumentality of his vocal cords. Words expressed have to be captured. So it is a respect. Whatever may be the discomfiture, they will sit and listen. And that is the tradition. Unless, of course, you have a personal problem. Even though you do not synchronize with the statements that come from a person, still you will sit in order to understand how difficult it may be, or if you do not understand, at least you will try to do your own japa, because there is a particular vibration that is created when the speech is being delivered. Swami Venkateshananda did it in a very humorous way during the apartheid rule in this country. He was to go and address a particular lecture, and in those days I believe you could not go through a particular road unless there was a mother expecting a baby. You had to go around about. But Swamiji told the driver to drive through that particular road. He was stopped by the sentry. The sentry came and asked, "Who is pregnant in the car?" And Swami said, "I am pregnant with ideas. I have to deliver." The sentry understood the humor and allowed the driver to go. Because you are delivering something, it is a freshness of idea that is coming. Everybody understood that back in India. When the Mahatmas delivered a lecture, Anandamayi Ma, even though she did not speak a single word during the 9-hour period, running into 3-hour sessions, 3 times a day for 7 days a week, she will come and sit. There is a seat for her and she will sit quietly. People are not at all bothered about what the Mahatmas speak. They are only interested to see how Ma is looking, a beautiful white dove sitting there. As she ages, She is very graceful, full of charm, and everybody looks, young and old, rich and poor, male and female, everybody only looks. They do not care for what the Mahatma says. The Mahatma is blessed to sit in her company and deliver something. And we have watched that at very close quarters. But I believe in one of those sessions, she suddenly got up and asked the girls to take her to a room. That was a strange behavior. And immediately, obedience is better than reverence, they took her to a room. After about 45 minutes or so, she knocked at the door and the girls went to attend on her. She was drenched, her clothes, her feet, everything was drenched. She had to be taken and cleaned, and putting on a new attire, she came and sat on the podium again. She never gave an explanation as to what happened, and the girls did not dare to ask. After the session was over, she was taken back. There was no talk, no explanation whatsoever. But after 2 days, somebody came into the hall when the program was on and some Mahatma was speaking and wept and wailed and shouted, "Oh Ma!" So the Swamiji stopped the talk and looked at him. He was saying, "Oh Ma," and weeping in ecstasy and shouting. They went and restrained him and asked, "What happened?" He said, "No, I want to prostrate to Ma right now. I have come from Banaras." This happened, I think, in Haridwar, and he had come from Banaras, which is about roughly 565 kilometers away. He gave an explanation. It seemed that he was on a boat ride in Banaras and the boat capsized. Those of you who have gone to Banaras or Varanasi will know, you can visualize that area in the Ghat of the Asi river where the boat goes past the Ghats, where the bodies are burned. It was there that it capsized. He was a devotee of Ma and he called her. Immediately Ma appeared there and rescued him. Now everybody who was sitting in the hall knew that Ma was sitting here and the event took place 565 kilometers away. This man cried. Ma came and lifted him. That is why she was drenched 2 days before and she did not give an explanation. When this was asked to Ma, she just looked up. She did not answer. Incarnations do not answer your questions. Incarnations just participate in the unfoldment that takes place constantly within us, without us, around us, for a greater purpose. And they participate constantly without giving any clarifications. You feel that experience and merge into it. That is a resolution. This happens in many people's lives. Many great Mahatmas have done very miraculous things. Spirituality is not full of miracles. It is not arithmetic or science. You have to transcend that. It is not because somebody is doing some magic that he is a great person. But where magic was a performance, they do not even give validity to that. They just ignore it, just remain as a simple witness to an extraordinary event and just pass it off. Because life is a miracle, is it not? Have you ever thought that you have the right to only breathe out? Do you have any confirmation that you will be able to breathe in the next breath? Is it not a miracle? Why are we full of miracles but we do not think of it like that? It is in recognizing that spirit that you become more and more humble. When you become more and more humble, you see every minute detail that happens around you. In that humility, you are able to have the vision of the Absolute. In that oneness, surrendering is what is known as humble surrender. Not surrender to an authority, not surrender because he is a person, but surrendering because it is a principle. In surrendering, you are not losing yourself. In that conviction of your understanding, in that act of surrendering, you are elevating your personality to a higher realm of expansiveness. That is what is known as true surrender. It is not going and touching somebody's feet and saying, I am surrendering. You give up your arms and say, we have surrendered, like General Niazi in 1975 in the war in Bangladesh said. That is a political surrender, a military surrender of people. But his idea, his understanding, his arrogance remain. That is not surrender. You are not surrendering to a mighty person. You are surrendering to a principle. And in that surrender, you blossom and become a perfect being. Because in that humility, you vibrate in a rhythmic way with the mature presence of the Almighty, where your senses are able to recognize that a power beyond you is with you at that time, and then behold the vision of the Absolute, as Arjuna had in the 11th chapter of that wonderful cosmic form. Every form is a terrifying form. If God comes near you, you will be afraid. If God does not come near you also, you are in a wretched condition. You must prepare yourself to receive that. Then only you will be able to understand and recognize the principle of the incarnation arriving at your door and embracing you. Because it is an act of humble participation where a great unfoldment is taking place, and you will feel that you are blessed at that moment because divinity has accepted your service for that cosmic purpose. When that acceptance takes place, everything that you desired, everything that is necessary for you will be given to you instantly. In the 22nd shloka of the 9th chapter, Sri Krishna promises that if you have an undifferentiated attention towards me, everything that is necessary for your welfare and hereafter will be blessed by him. These are not promises given by Obama to the American public, where he said, I will do this, and within 100 days, he couldn't. Where every president says to the legislature or to the people, I will do this within 3 months. They cannot do it because these are all promises made by very weak minds. But when you surrender, you have a strong conviction, and in that surrender, you will feel the presence of the Almighty and everything will be fulfilled. That is the purpose of an incarnation. The purpose of an incarnation is not to come and frighten you, but to be with you as you are, with your limitations. Not to expect something beyond you, but to be with you as you are and to accept you as you are. First of all, we do not know how to even behave with little children, let alone our behavioral pattern with the elders. One father advertised that he needs someone to look after his mischievous child who was uncontrollable. A very muscular, heavyweight person said, I am ready for the job. Now this man was a very rich man. He could do fist fight, he could do heavyweight boxing and whatnot. He came. This 2-year-old boy said, oh, you are the new one in my place. He said, yes. So he said, now I am jumping onto my bed, you also jump. Then he jumped off the bed and made him jump off. This child was able to do this 10 times. He was not able to do more than 3 times because he was exhausted. Whatever you may be capable of, you cannot compete with a child because the intensity of a child's behavior is totally different from the person who is physically fit. The reason being, you get exhausted the moment you are asked to do a monotonous work, and become mentally fatigued. When you are mentally fatigued, you cannot recognize the spirit of the young boy, the young child who is brimming with joy and facing the freshness of the Absolute. It is playing its game. You cannot compete with it because eternally young is a principle of the Absolute. It is not an old haggard fellow we are searching for as God. It is a presence of the now, and the young one is always eternal. A freshness is always eternal. That presence only has to be understood. It is only that presence that can give you a real solution to all the conflicts that you face. This is the consoling message of the 5th chapter. Arjuna asks for the methodology to be pursued to become a person who can concentrate on the different principles that lead one towards the practice of meditation. All people are interested in knowing what is meditation. Meditation cannot be done as long as we are individuals, just like you cannot perform Karma Yoga as it is told in the 3rd chapter. As long as you remain an entity isolated from the mainstream of the cosmic reality, no meditation is possible. How to do that? A long, preparatory, gradual participation has to be made by the seeker. That is why Dhyana Yoga comes later in the 6th chapter. Even in the Patanjali Yoga Shastras, they say Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. It is not the first stage. You cannot straight away ask Swamiji, teach me meditation. You cannot go to the 6th standard physics class and ask what is E is equal to mc squared. You have to understand what is E. You have to understand what is M. You have to understand what is C. And you have to understand every blessed thing before you come to an understanding what that equation is. Even after you know the equation, you do not know what it implies. You will still not be able to know what the theory of relativity is unless you have gone through the different grades of understanding. Meditation does not mean you shut your eyes and you say, sit straight, and immediately God will come and shake hands with you. It will never happen. It does not happen. Preparation is very important. How you prepare is very important. How humble am I? How honest am I? At least to myself. I do not have to prove my honesty to anyone in this world. I do not have to prove my sincerity to anyone in this world. It is a gradual, systematic participation in every event that I do from morning to evening. I am convinced of the fact that it is a state of meditation to which I will be led to eventually, because I am not asking anything for me. In meditation, cosmic reality speaks with you, whispers with you, cuddles you, embraces you, and integrates with you. There's a subtle difference between prayer and meditation. And to understand the meaning and the principle of meditation, as the 6th chapter implies, it has to be a flight from the alone to the alone. It is as if we need only one seat in the Mango Airlines to go to Durban. We stand there and catch on and go. Not because you have so many seats and then you say, okay, I am going to Durban. The idea is a flight from one to another. So a flight from the alone to the alone means it is not a desperation. The feeling is very intense at that time, and if no other thing grips you or wants your attention, you have only that focus of merging into that experience. It is only at that level meditation happens. There was somebody who was praying to Lord Ganesha for so many years, and he used to light the incense stick and go on praying. After some time, he got fed up because God never appeared. He said, "What is the use of every day spending money and showing this to you? And everybody says that we must pray, but you never appear. You are useless." So he got angry and packed Ganesha and put him on a shelf. Next minute, he had a vision of Ganesha. Came utter desperation, and there is the vision. Even Buddha said, "Today is the last day." Are we to wait for that last day? No. The idea is that it is not something that can happen overnight. My mind has to be clear. My intellect has to be clear. My feeling has to be 100% focused on that. My brain, my every cell of the body, every part of the body, the soul must seek in a total manner. Supposing if you want to celebrate 50 years of Anand Kutir, and at that time maybe Cyril Ramaphosa or Tokyo may be the president. At that time, if you want to call him for the occasion here and you send a letter, the presidency will accept the letter of invitation and say it will be under active consideration. Then they will send a discreet inquiries to your followers. Why do they want us to come? If the presidential visit is made, will they capitalize on that? Or do they have any personal interest? Does the organization have anybody who is having any criminal record? Does the organization have any links which are detrimental to the welfare of the state of South Africa? All this will be pursued by the secret intelligence forces, from the sniper to the home affairs to everybody. So they discuss all that. Finally, they will come and see where he is going to sit, how he is going to be received, what is the protocol, where is the chair, how high the chair will be placed, how low the chair will be placed, what direction the TV crew can sit, who will be the official who will be receiving, who will first extend the hand of welcome to him, who is his next dignitary who will be welcoming him, what is his status in the congregation, what is his spiritual status in the institution. All this will be analyzed, even though it is just a presidential visit for a few minutes. And meditation, you are asking the King of Kings to enter your heart. What would be the analytical power of the universal intelligence that will check you from the top of the head to the tip of the toe? At that time, every aspect of my personality, my very feeling, both positive and negative, both goodness and badness, my balances, my debts, my credits, my capability, my invocation, my participation, everything will be analyzed. Meditation is not an easy matter. All that happens is a long-standing preparatory process that is going on very subtly by all the forces in the universe. You cannot achieve God realization if you injured even a single person in this world. If anyone reaches to the level of God realization, as the Bhagavad Gita says, it is not an individual activity, it is a celebration for the entire human species or the life principles for it is a universal joy. That is why there are different types of methodologies in the pursuit of seeking the divinity within. You put on this ochre robe not because you have realized anything, but just to tell the people, look, I am trying to think differently. If you can, help me. Don't disturb me. That's all. I will play my pranks if you accept me. Otherwise, just leave me alone. Don't disturb me. I also tell the people by putting this on, I will not disturb you. I will not harm you. I promise I will not be injurious towards you. So leave me alone. A realization of the individual is not an isolated individual activity. All the people who talked to me and who did not talk to me, who loved me and who disliked me, who did not want me or who wanted me. All of them, either positively or negatively, were engaging in the process of my evolution in a subtle manner. As such, God realization is a universal action, not an individual action. Even if you pass through a place where a God realized person lived, you feel a breeze of joy, a fragrance of happiness, because the area is vibrating with the consciousness of the person who has risen to the level of the universal consciousness. This is not a simple exercise where you get a certificate from the London School of Economics, a doctor of divinity, and you become a realized person. It is nothing of that sort. It is a simple person who blossoms and becomes a great flower. That brilliant fragrance which it emits, the 1,000 petals, they say, radiates that vibration to one and all. You radiate that positivity to everyone because you are inseparably interconnected with every being in this world. If you go to the Queensland area, you can find the Aborigines. They will be able to tell you what happens about 500 kilometers away just by keeping their ear on the earth. They are able to communicate in such a way because their focus, their psyche, their attention has gone beyond the confines of time and space or locality, because they are able to capture the resource material of energy levels that is passing at a long distance. Such people live also if you go to Port Douglas near Wonga Beach area. If you talk to those elders, where the Californian lady wrote that book and they classify it as fiction, mutant message, and if you see them, they are people who are just normal. They may not be doing anything technically perfect from your point of view, but they are people who are totally innocent, and they have resolved to see something beyond which a normal lifestyle person will not like to watch or waste time for. But they have spent hours to capture glimpses of the divine beauty in different dimensions and different areas just by sitting in the place where they are. You can do it. It is not an impossibility. It is a possible occurrence that can be brought to our attention if we are open to that. You can sit in a corner of your room and see what is happening around the world without going out or even opening the door. You need not go out and see also. You can visualize everything. It is not simply a dream, not a wool gathering. It is because the light is flooding you with all visions, and you pick what is necessary and you participate. Withdraw or participate. It is all your choice, because we are all connected with that at all times. We may be born in different countries. We may be having different ideologies, but still we can be connected with this single principle which has been agitating our minds so long. Oh, they are this, they are practitioners of this, they have a different lifestyle. All these segregations we can make, but if we are focused, we can be united with one single thought when the dawn of this great occurrence takes place in us as a principle of incarnation. Thereby, we also become the incarnate agents of the Absolute, where we bring joy and peace to all. Preparing towards that understanding, which comes through the fruit of meditation, is a long methodology. It has to be applied by the seeker according to his temperament and his focus, which implies different methodologies applied by the seeker on account of the temperament that that individual has. Arjuna asks a particular question: why am I having these different temperaments? Sri Krishna says, there are three gunas that operate: sattva, rajas and tamas. Each guna is operating in different percentages in every single action that you do. Each guna is preponderating over the other in a differing manner, due to which you want to be just in withdrawal state, or just very active, or just very lethargic. Your moods, your conditions, your expectation levels change and fluctuate from moment to moment because of the operations that are taking place. You have not yet connected yourself with your environment. As such, you must prepare your personality to sink into that operational method whereby you can gradually lift it to enter the portals of meditation. Eating the food is just 5 minutes. Preparing the food is 5 hours. All life is a preparation for meditation. All life is to seek the food for the soul. All life is to integrate with the Absolute. That is why meditation is far off in the 6th chapter. In that meditation level only, we begin to understand what we are, who we are, why we are. Hari Om.